there's nothing like cracking that cellophane and pulling that record out. It just smells great.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Non-stop hardcore energy.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Unlike any other.
With your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bod Father.
Man, this stuff rocks.
This is Aaron from Gemini Syndrome, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
The views and opinions of the guest do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Radio Network, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Radio Network.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I am your host, John the Bod, aka the Bod Father, and as always, I'm bringing you guys and gals awesome interviews. And today it's an honor and a huge privilege to welcome back Mr. Aaron Nordstrom, vocalist of the mighty Gemini Syndrome. They have released their new album entitled Third Degree, The Raising via Century Media. This is the band's third installment of trilogy of albums. Also check out singles Die With Me, IDK, Abandon, Broken Reflection, Absolution, and Reintegration. And you definitely do not want to sleep on this band. If you do, you are mighty, mighty mistaken. So Aaron, how you doing, my man?
The Bod Father. I love that. So good. I'm great, man. I'm covered in dog hair, so pardon my appearance, but I'm good.
It's all good. You gotta have
happy to be home. Oh yeah, I got 3 of them. I got an old dog, a middle-aged dog, and a puppy.
How excited are you to finally have the long-awaited new album entitled Third Degree, The Raising release now in this crazy time that we're in?
Man, we had to sit on it for almost 2 years because of this pandemic. We were done recording at the end of 2019 and ready to release in April was the original goal. We were set out to go to Los Angeles to do shots with Dean Carr for the photo, all the artwork and stuff. And that was the weekend that the pandemic shut LA down. And that started our whole waiting process of just kind of, how do we release this? What do we do with it? We can't tour on it, so we don't want to let it go now, but we also don't want to just sit on it and not release it. So I'll introduce you to Jade.
Oh, hey, Pepper.
She's a psycho. Don't let her fool you. She looks cute, but she's got a demon inside of her, I'm sure.
Oh no.
Yeah. She ate my new glasses the day I got home on Thanksgiving from tour.
Oh man.
I took a nap and I woke up and my friend came over to take me out to our Friendsgiving thing, and she's like, I hope these aren't your new glasses. It's not her fault. She's stupid.
How frustrating was it to sit on those songs, man? And like you just said, you couldn't do anything, and not even knowing when you're going to be able to hit the road again to do anything.
I mean, it was frustrating for sure, but at the same time, like, what are you going to do about it? You know what I mean? I didn't sit here and stress out and freak out for a year because there was nothing we could do. It was out of our control. Mm-hmm. And at those points in life, you just kind of got to go with the flow, if you will. You know what I mean? And learn how to adapt. So in turn, we started releasing singles. We started doing like Reintegration, then IDK like 6 weeks later, and then Die With Me 6 weeks later, or whatever it was. And it was at least a way to get music out there. We knew that people were sitting at home doing nothing because that's what we were doing. So it was an opportunity to at least put music out, have people listen to it. And I think if anything, if looking on the bright side of things, right, is people had nothing to do but listen to music in a sense, right? Like you're just kind of sitting around, isolated, at home, disconnected from the world around you. But I listen to a ton of music. I think I listened to 71,000 hours of music on my Spotify year-end review. So
since everybody was at home and finally taking advantage of getting music out there, especially locals, locals are hitting it hard. Do you think it's an even playing field for everybody right now?
Is it ever a level playing field? Let me give you an example of a band who has come out of nowhere and done amazing work. This is a band called Sleep Token, right? I heard about them in February of 2020, and nobody knew who they were. And now they're packing arenas in England and overseas. They're from England, I believe. Become one of my favorite bands now. And they managed to do this all during a pandemic. And as soon as the pandemic was over, like, they were releasing their first record, and they had like visualizers, which are like not really lyric videos, but kind of just a visual thing you could watch with symbols on it. But they kept content coming out, and they got a huge following over the pandemic's kind of evolution or whatever. And like a band like that, they came out of nowhere. Like I said, nobody knew who they were, and they're doing amazing. And they're an amazing band. So they've got great music, and they got a great product. So you see guys like that coming out of nowhere, right? And making traction and really getting headway in the industry. And it's encouraging to see something like that, where it's not, they don't have a giant machine pushing them, you know. They're just doing it kind of organically and having good product. And I feel like we're in that same world where our music is good. We put our time into it, and all you can do is just kind of put it out there and support it and hope that the fans are getting access to it, you know.
And for the bands who didn't take advantage of this, or who never had to do this before, you just had to adapt to this and finally just say, you know, screw it, let's do this.
Yeah. So we just kind of reassembled our business team, and one of the guys that we brought in, his big point was like, during the pandemic, we had to learn how to create income for us, because most of our money comes from touring, right? As a musician at this point in the game, that's where most of the cash comes from, that pays our bills and pays the rent. So you had to adapt and find other avenues, right? So there's people doing, you know, the Patreon thing, and there's people doing the TikTok thing and the Twitch thing, and there's just it was a whole new world kind of opened up for touring musicians to get involved in this digital revolution and learn how to, you know, be able to still interact and still create content and still create interaction between the fans and the band. And it's a learning curve. It's a learning process, right? And we're still all kind of new to it. I am not, as we just saw when I was trying to sign up for this Zoom interview, that I couldn't even get it on my laptop. I am not the technological guy in the band. I write the lyrics and I sing the songs and I play the notes and I'm good at it. And everything else is second rate, I suppose you could say. Right? So I do my best, right? We make it, but it ain't always easy.
So you guys were just on the road. How does it feel to be able to get back out there and play some shows, and especially your guys'
it was great.
Acoustic sets after the shows, man?
Yeah, it was great, man. I love the acoustic set. That's part of my favorite part of the day. It's low impact for me. It's not a lot of tax on my voice or my body. So, and it's just kind of, it's cool for me to take the tunes that we have and reinvent them kind of in a, you know, like a fusion of acoustic and jazz and kind of like smoky cigar bar kind of feel. I enjoy it. The fans seem to enjoy it too. They've been doing really well, and we've been able to kind of, you know, incorporate a meet and greet kind of situation into that as well, where we can hang out a little bit. We take a big group photo, and then everybody walks around and does individual stuff. So having that kind of one-on-one FaceTime with people is good too, you know, especially after this pandemic. I think it was needed for a lot of people to have hugs, handshakes, and you know, shit like that. It's necessary.
My friend Ron Stone reps AP in the band. He got to see you guys twice on this tour, and I got to interview AP a long time ago for this. And man, this band, honestly, I'm not saying it's just because you're on here, but most down to earth guys who you wouldn't even realize are in a band. If you met them in a bar, they're just down to earth and talk to you and cheer. You know, it's not like, oh, we're rock stars, blah blah blah.
Oh man, I mean, that's a weird thing to have in this industry, is that title of rock star, I think, because like in some sense, yeah, that's what we do, right? I'm a singer of a band. I tour around and, you know, relatively successful, I guess. And, you know, that's like the criteria, I guess, but I don't know. I feel like a semi-normal dude most of the time. I don't know if that's even true. Maybe not normal, but I don't feel like a rock star most of the time. I just feel like a human trying to figure it out, trying to figure out what this whole game is about, and why we're here, and how I can best utilize my time as a human on this planet.
The band spent the better part of 2018 and 19 writing Third Degree, The Raising. Did the writing come pretty easy for this album? And when did the pandemic actually give you more time to fulfill and work this album more out?
No, we were done with this album before the pandemic even became a thing, right? Like November of 19, I was out of the studio. I was done. So I think it was mixed in February, which is when Tiger King came out on Netflix, which was my starting point of the pandemic. That was when the first weird thing happened. Was I watched Tiger King and I was like, this is the most bizarre shit ever. And then it was like murder hornets, and then it was like flying tarantulas with lasers on them or some shit. I forget, but then it was all downhill from there. The point being, though, that we were done long before any of that stuff hit. So it was really kind of an after the fact of like, well, now what? We're already done. To answer your first question, the writing was super easy. And so we spent a lot of time, we went down with like over a full record's worth of material. And the guys went down before I did for a couple of weeks. And by the time I got there, they'd written 7 more songs. So we had a whole nother, half record that I had to work with. And I ended up writing all 7 of those songs and recording all 7 of them. And I think 5 of them ended up making it to the record. So I really wrote half the album in the week that I was in the studio to do it. I was there for 9 days. I took 2 days off from my throat to rest. So it was a total of a week in the studio to do that album and write half of it. So I was like recording 2 songs a day in the beginning, and then I'd go home and I'd write a song. And I'd come in and I'd record that right away, and then I'd do something else that I already had done, and I'd repeat that process every day. And we were done. And we didn't question too much. It was like, does it sound good? Sounds good. Then let's move on. And it was kind of a cool experience in the sense that I didn't have the chance to overanalyze everything. I didn't have the chance to question myself over and over again, which is, I think, a trap that a lot of musicians get, and artists in general kind of get stuck in. It's like, oh, it's not finished yet. You have to learn how to say enough's enough, right? Because it's never really done. I mean, I changed melodies even to this day on like Basement. I started singing slightly differently because I found a thing that I like to sing. I can't go back and record it that way, like the record's already done, right? But the live show can change and it can evolve that way. But if you stay in that mentality in the studio, you're going to be there forever.
Oh yeah.
And your record never gets done. I have friends who do that. They're like, they've been working on the same album for 10 years. It's like, whoa, when do you say it's good enough? Like what if I just watched Bohemian Rhapsody, part of it last night. Like what if Freddie Mercury had just been like, Bohemian Rhapsody's not done yet. And they took another, you know what I mean? Eventually it's a masterpiece and you have to say it's done. It's a masterpiece. It's done. And move on. Right?
I thought it was a great movie.
I'm not saying, I did too. I'm not saying that I've written a Bohemian Rhapsody in my time. In the principle of the matter, you have to accept when your work is finished, right? And then you can move on to something else.
Would you say this is Gemini Syndrome's darkest and heaviest album to date, possibly?
I've certainly heard that. I've certainly heard that it's the heaviest. It's interesting. I listened to it, and it is a heavy record. I get that. But I feel like I sang a lot more. Didn't do a lot of screaming on this album. I mean, it's there. And there's some content that's certainly emotionally heavy. I felt it was more a melodic record, personally. But what do I know? You know what I mean? I just write the songs. You guys listen to them. So I'll take your opinions and feedback, right? But everybody says it's the heaviest record we have. So sure, it's the heaviest record we have.
It's heavy, and I like this. I like all the Gemini's music. I do like the direction this is going. But hey, like you said, it's your music. This is what you guys put out, and I like it, man. Honestly.
Well, thank you. I'm proud of it, man. I love this record. I think it's some of the best work we've done to date. I think it's the best record from top to bottom. And that's not to say that the other ones weren't. I love the other 2 albums too. At the time, I thought that was the greatest work I'd done. So if this progression keeps going, then we're in a good place that hopefully the next record will be the best work I've done. And we'll keep doing that until it's not our best work and whatever we make sucks and we'll work at Walmart or something.
All right, Aaron, what's impressed or excited you the most about making this album, if anything, man? What sticks out the most for you about it, possibly?
Honestly, the kind of psychological work that I did during the process of this record, I had from 2017 when we were done touring. There was a lot of things going on in my life. There was I had to get sober. I had a lot of health issues. I had a heart attack. I had some seizures when I was detoxing from alcohol.
Jeez.
I coded out once. I died. The heart stopped. My lungs stopped. I was with my kung fu teacher. He did CPR. He saved my life. So I had a dark time, man. And a lot of it came out of this record. And yeah, for me, that was the coolest part, was kind of working through my own demons, I guess. And coming out on the other side, like, as this record is supposed to be the third part of the trilogy, and it's supposed to be about resurrection of the higher self, if you will. And I feel like that's exactly what happens. I mean, it's exactly the experience that I went through to write this album, right? So I definitely had this moment where I was kind of laughing, like, I'm writing a record about death and resurrection, but I don't, how am I going to write about something that I don't have experience in? Because that's kind of what I do, is write about shit that I've gone through, and then, turn the tide, and I have experience now, so I can write about death and resurrection. Hoorah!
That's going to be my next question, man. Did this kind of feel like your redemption album in a way? Even though it's in a trilogy of this album, of these releases, but does this kind of feel like a redemption for you?
It does. My whole life kind of feels like that right now, man. I've made a lot of choices that have altered my course in life, and I'm in a better place than I feel I've probably ever been. And I had to go through a world of shit to get there, and it was all mostly self-created, right? But as most problems in life are. But I came out on the other side, and I feel better for it. I'm physically in the best shape I've ever been in. I'm mentally in the best shape I've ever been in. I'm spiritually in the best shape I've ever been in. So everything else at this point, bring it on. I'm ready. I already died, so I can't be, you can't scare me with that. If that's the biggest fear that we have in life, I've already crossed that threshold once, and I'm not scared of it anymore. So everything else is kind of like free for all, right?
Man, that's a strong statement right there. I'm not afraid anymore to experience that, And I had my own battle back in September. Yeah. Yeah, I had my own battle back in September where I almost passed away too in the hospital. And it was
yikes.
Man, it hits you like a ton of bricks, It's like, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Did you get COVID?
Nope, I had a cyst that ruptured on me.
Oh, yeah, that's not good.
No.
That's not good.
Plus, I'm a diabetic. It got in my bloodstream and all that stuff. And I was an idiot. I thought I knew everything. And, it's like, you don't know shit. You know what I mean?
It can come out of nowhere, man.
Yeah.
When I had the heart attack, so I had the heart attack after I'd quit drinking, after I'd had the seizures. I was like 9 months sober or something. And the heart attack came out of nowhere, right? And I sat on it for 3 days. I had a heart attack in my house for 3 days. Like, I started having chest pains on Sunday night, and I called the ambulance on Wednesday afternoon at 12 in the afternoon. I was smoking a cigarette on my back patio like this, like calling the ambulance. Like, I think I'm having a heart attack. The pain got so bad. The EMTs came, and they got me in the ambulance. They did an EKG, and they're like, you show no signs of having a heart attack. I was like, cool, that's great. So we get to the hospital, and they kind of put me off to the side, and they took blood work, and they sent me out in front, and they came back like, I don't know, sometime later, maybe 10, 20 minutes, and they were like, they called my name, and they're like, you need to come with us immediately. As soon as I got back there, I was in the ICU, I was hooked up to all the machines, and they're like, we'd like to put you in for surgery right now. And my response was, do I have to? And I ended up sitting another day in the hospital. I didn't want to have the stent put in my heart. I was like, well, am I going to die if I don't? She didn't want to answer my question because I think she knew that I was kind of on the fence of whether I wanted to be alive anymore.
Yeah.
And I was kind of in a place where, well, if I don't get the surgery, I'm going to pass away, because I was going to opt for that. And, logic and, insight, I suppose, or whatever, the desire to survive kicked in, and I did the surgery, and it was, it went off without a hitch, and I'm here and I'm fine now. So, I don't know. It is what it is. It's part of my journey, I guess.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here, man. For sure.
Me too.
Any track standing out more to you than any right now on this album? I know it must change every time you listen to it. I know these are your babies, Aaron. I know that, but do you have that any that stick out for you, possibly?
You summed it up there. Like every time I've listened to it, and as the record has been done, I've had different favorites. IDK is a personal favorite. Children of the Sun is a personal favorite. Abandon is an interesting song. I had made a deal with my kung fu teacher that I would write a song about my adopted mother and the traumas that I had, or the experiences I had from that growing up. I had never really addressed those issues before as blatantly as I did. And it was an emotional experience, man. There was the whole point when I was getting a divorce and I was still drinking really heavily and I was really depressed. And, we had all that footage. I was going to cut my dreads off and burn them as a kind of a catharsis for myself to kind of end that cycle of my life. And we recorded all that. And we didn't know what we were going to use it for. It was an emotional experience. I'm really crying. I'm really in pain in that video. And we used that footage later for the Abandoned video, which was a cool kind of concept in the sense that, you had me kind of, doing my kung fu in a video for once. I've been doing Chuka, Southern Praying Mantis, for 23 years. And so that's the movements I'm doing in the video. And it was kind of like this mirror image of before and after, right? Like the resurrection of me coming out, not being an emotional basket case and not being just unstable and being physically healthy and not being drunk all the time, depressed, showing off the place that I've gotten to, I guess, is the way to see it.
And that's, I'm not saying this in a bad way whatsoever at all, man, because I've interviewed you before and I see a happier Aaron now, if that makes sense. Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In the past, man, I was struggling for a long time, with a lot of demons and a lot of life choices that I had to live with. And some things that weren't in my control and weren't up to me, and I still had to deal with, because that's life, right? It's part of the process. But yeah, I appreciate that. I feel like that's the you that you're getting from me, right? Or that's the me that you're getting from me. That's what I miss. Yeah, much happier. Happy to be here. Happy to be still kicking. Happy to have a puppy, even though she eats all my shit.
Any tracks that didn't make this album, which I know you said there was a couple, can we see them on another EP or another full length?
You'll see them on something in the future. I think we probably have enough material to do another record right now, but knowing us, we'll still write more shit,
Sure.
And that's kind of the process as it goes. You come into a record having, 30 songs or whatever. I think Bruce Springsteen used to say that he would come in with 50 per record, and they would whittle it down to 10 or 12 or whatever. So you always end up having this back catalog of a ton of music. I think there was a total of 2 or 3 that ended up being B-sides, we recorded in the studio with Matt, that didn't go on the album. There's a bunch left over. I don't know. I know there's a few for sure that I would like to see on a future album. And, who knows? It's one of those things that we're pretty much ready to do a record as soon as this album cycle is done. Just because the fact that we sat on it for 2 years, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This record's new to you guys, but it's ancient history to me.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. Sick of these songs. Yeah, sick of these songs. Ready to
And I can't say I'm sick of them yet because we haven't played them live that much, but it's I don't know. It be like that sometimes, right? Yeah, sure. I want to write new shit. I'm ready. Let's go. But we still have to play the part of this album and let it do its work. And yeah, it is what it is. You just kind of got to roll with the punches, man, as we've all experienced in the last couple of years. That life happens on life's terms and you don't really have a say in it. So it's really, how do you react to the stimulus that's coming at you, and that's how you learn how to be a better person.
Yeah, exactly. Was there a track that you guys are working on that ended up sounding different than it was intended to? Was there one that just totally kept changing? Maybe?
Yes. The line was if you heard the original demo version of Hold the Line versus what it ended up being on the record, it's like the chorus is the same, but everything that surrounds it is kind of has been reworked. And I mean, I love the way it turned out, and I love the original. And I think what'll end up happening, some of the stuff from the original will turn into another tune, because there's some really heavy, like it was a really heavy tune in the beginning, and it turned into more of this kind of like piano oriented, organic, melodic kind of tune. And it came out great. I love it. It's one of my favorite songs on the record. And I'm excited to play that one live. But it was just interesting to see the transformation that it went through from the original to what, and it just looked like a totally different being by the end of the trip, you know.
Now, you mentioned growth, and you mentioned about letting go on this for you personally, but what about everybody else on working on this album in the band? What growth have you seen each member bringing to this album, possibly, if any?
Well, in that, like, you know, I won't speak on everybody's personal lives, but everybody has gone through some changes, and you know, in the last 10 years in general, right? Like we've been doing this for a minute now, and we know each other pretty well, you know, inside and out. And everybody is kind of like, AP has gone now. If you see him, he's like a beast now, right? Like AP used to be super skinny, and he, at some point, we came back from tour like 3 years ago, and he got a gym membership, and then I ended up changing gyms. But he became like a gym hound, right? And now he's like, he put on like 30 pounds. He looks healthier than he's ever looked in his life. He's strong as hell. And his, like, just doing that for him changed his whole attitude. Like, he's happier most of the time because he's getting exercise on, and he's taking care of his physical vehicle. And that affects the mind and affects the emotional body and all that stuff too. So just by taking care of ourselves a little bit better and putting a little more time into ourselves, I think has been exponentially beneficial for the creative process, and for just being on tour and being stuck in a little bus all the time. You know, we still get in our fights and our arguments or whatever, they last like 5 minutes and then we apologize. But we have a pretty good rapport of making sure that we calm the waters as soon as they get ruffled, because I love my guys, right? We love each other. We're family. So,
you know, I hated that everybody had to go through the pandemic, but I feel like, and I know there's a lot of people who lost lives, and I deeply, deeply am sorry about that. But yeah. I feel like it was just a recharge for every single person, even Mother Nature, man. If you looked at photos and stuff with all this shit that went down,
sure.
It seemed like everybody needed a recharge.
Or a reset, right? Yeah, had a chance to maybe figure out what's more important in life, right? I feel like, for me personally, I loved being home. I loved being a hermit. I'm kind of like that anyway when I'm not out. I like being home. I like reading. I like hanging out with my stupid dogs. And, you know, that's what I do. So for me, it was like I read a ton of books while I was home. And I went to the gym when I was open, and I did Kung Fu at home, and just I spent some time with me and got to know myself a little bit better than I had before. And I think it was in kind of a collective sense, right? It was a chance for everybody to kind of be put in time out in a way, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And kind of analyze what we were doing as a species and what we do with our time, right? And how we interact with each other. One of the things I noticed about being back on tour is the attitude of people in general was like this one of gratitude and appreciation of being able to be out and be around people and be around music and hear live music again, and be in that place where a lot of people go for that kind of release that, you know, you might get from a psychologist or something. Right? He's going to rock shows and listening to bands and kind of getting lost in that. So I think it gave everybody kind of this newfound appreciation for what life can offer, right?
What change did you see, man, out on this last tour with people? I know you guys had a lot of people showing up, but what was the most interesting change that you saw personally?
Like I said, man, just the gratitude that people have, right? I didn't see any fights at any shows. Even when people, I mean, I saw a couple guys like get too drunk and get removed from shows because you see that at bars, right? It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, I think the one guy got kicked out because he was so drunk he accidentally walked into the women's bathroom. I think that's what I walked in there. He was there. I was like, fucked up because they had no idea what was going on. I think that was the biggest thing, was just the general attitude is people were just happy to be there. They weren't looking to start fights. They weren't looking to cause trouble. They were just happy to be there, man, which is, I think, hugely important for humanity in general, just to, like, you know, enjoy each other. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, and we don't, and I think people have took it for granted. Like, this is going to be everyday thing. Nothing's going to change. And when it hits, it's like, oh shit, now we got to reset. So yeah.
And you get this habit of getting kind of autopilot, right?
Yeah.
And you start living life not really being conscious of what you're doing. You just kind of become a robot, right? It's not like that can happen to everybody and anybody. And even as a musician, right? Like, I could find myself in the past, like, getting into the place where you're just kind of playing the show because you're on tour. Like, when we would tour for like 10 months out of the year, you know, it can be easy to lose sight of, like, the joy that you get to do this for a living, and I get to do this all the time, and I get to, you know, but it can get tiring and you get taxed and it can affect your attitude. And it was just kind of a way to reset and step back and say, all right, what's important to me? What's not important to me? What do I want in my life? What don't I want? And really kind of some self-analysis, assuming that people have the desire and the tenacity to do that and really look at themselves. I think it was an opportunity for a lot of growth for people if they used that time accordingly.
Now, you worked with previous producers Kane and Kevin Churko, and now Matt Good, who's worked with Asking Alexandria, Memphis Mayfire, Hollywood Undead. How was working with Matt on this album?
It was awesome. We had great experiences with Kevin and Kane. I love those guys with all my heart. And it was cool to see a new perspective, right? It was cool to go into another guy's world. Matt he was really easy to work with for me. He listened to everything I had to say. I listened to everything he had to say. One of the interesting stories about this record is how Die With Me came to be. I had made a statement in the studio, something along the lines of, if I ever have a song with woes in it, someone shoot me in the face. I think that was my exact quote. And I think Matt took offense to that, or took it as a challenge maybe. And he was like, oh yeah? And he came back with this demoed out riff. And just the whoa kind of line. He goes, go home and write to this. I was like, all right, I'll play your stupid game, Mr. Producer. And I went home and wrote it, and I came back in and we recorded it and we loved it. They were cracking up in the control room while I was doing the vocals. They're like, this is awesome, man. So, and it became one of our favorites. It's, obviously did really well at radio, and the fans really like it. It's really fun to play live. It's one of my favorite songs now. So I learned something new because of Matt Good, that woes can be really awesome.
Look at the Misfits. That's their niche.
Who knew?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm just taking pages out of people's books that I thought were stupid back in the day when I was an ignorant kid.
So did he challenge you? Did he push you, man, to get something out of you that you
did
not have gotten?
He did. They all did, man. Kevin, Kane, and Matt were all really good at that. They were all really good at being like, well, they go, can you do, let's do this harmony? You're like, oh, it's too high. I don't think I can do it. You go, just try, buddy. Okay, buddy, I'll try. Or he'd say, I just need one. Like, okay, you just need one. I can do it once, right? And I would do it. Like, oh, I did it. Right? Get all happy like a kid. Yay! Do I get a treat now? So, yeah, he was. But they all three of those guys are really good at pushing me into places that I didn't realize I could go, right? And hitting notes that I didn't realize I could hit. And then over the course of that, And then over the course of these last couple tours, being on the road again, not being drinking on the tour, which as a singer super affects your voice because your body is the instrument. So heavy drinking is not recommended for daily singing, just so you know. Having all of those factors kind of change, man. I have grown in, like, my range. It got exceptionally bigger. I got a falsetto back for the super high notes that I could never sing in the studio. And I was able to do all that stuff on these last couple tours. So there's been a lot of growth for me personally coming out of this record and out of the processes that were involved to make it. So all good things, you know.
Who did the artwork for this amazing album?
We worked with Cameron Gray again, who we've done all 3 records with. He's out of Australia. He's an amazing visionary kind of artist. Combined, we did the photos with Dean Carr. We did all the blood makeup with this guy named Joe Castro, you know, from LA. He does a fantastic job with all that stuff. Yeah.
Aaron, what do you hope everyone takes away while listening to any of Gemini Syndrome's music in general, man? What do you hope they get from it?
Well, I hope they enjoy it sonically, right? I hope they just enjoy listening to good tunes, because I think that's what we write. On a philosophical or spiritual level, like, I think the first key to any kind of growth in this world is self-awareness. And I think that's what a lot of my poems or whatever go back to, is kind of self-analysis. And, you know, at the end of the day, you can't change anything in this world except yourself. Everything else is outside of your control. And the more you try to control things outside of yourself, generally speaking, the less control you have of yourself. So I would hope that people get the inclination to be more self-aware and be more not disciplined, but just willing to, like, it's hard to grow, man. That's why we have growing pains when we physically grow as teenagers, right? And emotional growth is the same way. Spiritual growth is the same way. It hurts because you have to let go of the old and you have to push through and make things bigger and better. And I think that that's kind of the message of this band, of all of the stuff that I write, man, of all of my poems and songs, are trying to overcome the shit that didn't let you move forward yesterday, right? That's as far as I'm concerned, that's the purpose of being here in this physical body in this weird world, is to grow as a person, and I don't mean like as the physical person, but to grow as the ego, as the person that is you, right?
Aaron, do you still have a go-to album, or just maybe a song that you find yourself going back and listening to from time to time that you find yourself gravitating back to, possibly?
Oh, depending on the mood, yeah. Since I found Sleep Token, man, I've been listening to Sleep Token like nonstop. The bands that I listen to the most, I think, on my Spotify were The Contortionist, Sleep Token, Bring Me the Horizon, and 12 Foot Ninja. I think for the last year, it was like, and Perfect Circle was like all I listened to, or Pussifer. And then I listened to like a whole bunch of. I listened to this playlist called Floating Through Space, and it's just kind of like ambient, kind of like, it's music, right? But it's not like songs. It's just kind of like somebody playing with a space pad on their keyboard, and really like trance music without the going on behind it.
Yeah. I
spend most of my time listening to that shit, like more than I do like regular rock music or bands or whatever. I listen to a lot of drum and bass. Let me think though. So there's this, the record Language by The Contortionist. They did a version called Language Rediscovered, which they took. It's kind of is part of what inspired the acoustic versions of what we do. But there's a particular tune on that. I think it's actually Language Rediscovered. It's kind of a go-to for me. It kind of puts me in a centered headspace, right? But I could go on and list the songs that I go back to from time to time. That could take another hour, man.
Folks, you want to get out and pick up Gemini Syndrome's new album entitled Third Degree, The Raising, via Century Media. and also pick up
Recognize.
plus pick up their other stuff as well. So Aaron, my man, thank you guys for your music. And how can folks stay in touch with you all, buy this new album, merchandise, all this good stuff? How can they do that?
GeminiSyndrome.com, the Center Society. You can find all the merch, all of the albums. Obviously, you can find it all on streaming platforms. You can find us on social medias. Everything is .com/Gemini Syndrome. And then you can find all of our personals by our names. We all handle our personal accounts. So I promise you'll be talking to me. I did just get hacked yesterday, or 2 days ago.
Jeez.
I lost control of my Instagram for about 12 hours. And this guy, man, I was like, them's fighting words. And I was like, you are not going to win. So I stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning, and I finally found his email, and I finally got him blocked out of all my accounts. And I sent him a really colorfully worded email that I won't repeat here, but I made my point. And if I ever find that guy, I'm going to tell him something else. You know what I'm saying? But I only bring that up. I got it back. But the point is that it's all of our social media. So if you're reaching out to us, you're actually talking to us. I promise it's all under my control now. Yeah, so all is well.
Before I let you go, Aaron, would you care to do a promo for my show?
Yeah, for sure. This is Aaron from Gemini Syndrome, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Everybody stick around. We got some great stuff coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour. Please get out and check out our Facebook page. It has our podcast link and our YouTube link. And please, folks, please subscribe to the YouTube link, because if I get a lot of subscribers, I'm going to eat a bologna sandwich with my shirt off and sing Baby Shark and Barbie Girl and all that good stuff with it. So you don't want to.
How do we make that happen?
I'm at 660 subscribers. I want to get at least 1,000 subscribers. That's what I'm shooting for.
All right.
So.
And then you're going to do Baby Shark?
I'll do Baby Shark. I swear I will.
All right. I believe you. I believe you.
Folks, get out and pick up Gemini Syndrome's new CD, the album Third Degree, The Raising via Century Media. You won't be disappointed. So, Aaron, my man, as always, I wish you guys nothing but the best of luck.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate it. It's good to talk to you.
Yeah, you too. Thank you, man.
You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.